It's time to talk about the very best comic books of the week, the comic books you should absolutely be reading. We've got 4 indie comics, we've got a Marvel comic to talk about, and a couple of DC comics. Here with me, as always, is Drew from Comics Elite. How you doing, Drew?
Doing great, Wes. We're fulfilling Born of Blood right now, almost done, but I still make time to read good comics. So let's talk about some great comics this week.
Well, congratulations on Born of Blood finally getting fulfilled, the very first crowdfunding that you've done. One of what looks to be many in the future. So congratulations on that. Let's get into these great comic books. And we've already talked about Born of Blood a couple weeks ago while you weren't here.
Yes, thank you.
So yeah, Drew, I'm sorry. Gabe was very impressed by that comic. Let's hit the indie scene first, as we always do. I've been on this since the very beginning. I've recommended issue number 1 all the way through issue number 5. Crimson Cage number 5, AWA Studios. John Lees, Alex Cormack. These two have worked together in the past a lot. I think this might be the best comic they've ever done together. This final issue of the story is absolutely amazing. We got the comeuppance coming for the character that's been murdering his way all the way through the Southern wrestling circuit. He finally is in a cage with the man whose wife he murdered on accident. Really exciting stuff. The art, once again, is tragic. It's brutal. It's a great color palette choice for the comic book itself. And this right here is number 1 right now for best comic book story of 2022. There are a couple of other ones that are in the running, but I think Crimson Cage was essentially sterling from beginning to end.
I am going back to reread it. I've started to reread it again. It's actually a lot more fun now rereading it in hindsight. But I believe I have a title as well that meets and maybe exceeds Crimson Cage. We're going to talk about here in a bit. But that's a very fun read too.
If you like Shakespeare and you like professional wrestling, this is absolutely a comic book for you, and it's damn near perfect. Now let's go over to the other one I'm going to recommend. This one has some caveats on it, though. We Live, Age of Palladions, number 2 from Aftershock. Roy Inanaki Miranda. The visuals, once again, look very amazing, but I'm not buying into this story. I'm not loving it quite as much as the original. I still like it, but I wish they would focus more on characters than really big ideas. I think characters sell the ideas, and I think they've gone too big in the world building and not hard enough in on putting the characters front and center.
It's unique you have the point of view with that, because I am enjoying this story so much now, seeing the world as where I read the first series, first 2. I'm like, that's okay. It's fine. This one, I'm like, I'm really digging it now. But it's 2 different points of view right here. Yeah. But it's still good. It
does feel a lot different than the very first one. You got to admit that one, but it looks like $1 million. Roy and Inaki Miranda really are doing a lot of things here. As far as world building, they are going very big, and I will give them an A for ambition on this one, because they are definitely trying to knock this one out of the park, and they are holding nothing back. Definitely go check out We Live. If you haven't read the original, read the original and then jump into We Live, Age of Palladions, another very good comic book. And I think this is the comic book you were talking about when you said you had a comic that you thought was the best of the year so far. Ablaze's Animal Castle number 5, Xavier Dorison, Felix Gillette.
Absolutely. And every issue. So Kyle and I talked last week. We've been waiting inevitably for the other shoe to drop, for like one issue to show up where it's like, oh, this was just okay. This wasn't great. Each issue has been great. This one is just as great. People are losing family members. It's going to get tragic. It's going to get heartbreaking. And we have our heroes and our villains, more or less, and we're going to see which side is going to break first. Is it going to be the president, El Presidente, or is it going to be the people? Is it going to be the cat? We'll see what happens. I mean, they want to stay warm. Who's going to break? It is so damn good. The art is phenomenal. You really see the emotions in these animals. It's one of those series where few ones for me where I'm like, I hope there is a Netflix series or a movie, an animated feature for this, because this is perfect for an animated feature that I have a strong feeling kids would enjoy.
We talk about Ablaze, in high regard a lot here on the channel, but I do want to take just a moment. I really like Scout. I like what they're doing over at Vault. AWA, I think, has a lot of good titles for the amount of content they put out, but nobody is touching Ablaze right now. Just right now, you're going to see Animal Castle, you're going to see Life Zero, you're going to see the Sumerian comics always being recommended here. A lot of these are European stories that are being translated or brought over to the American market, where Ablaze is essentially curating the best stuff, chopping it up into individual issues and releasing it. But if you have lost faith in comic books, or you're looking for something, and you never know if it's going to be good. If it says Ablaze on it right now, essentially, Drew, it's almost guaranteed to be not just good, but like great.
Absolutely. That's 100% correct. The art is always phenomenal in every issue. Not just Animal Castle, like you said, the Sumerian, this most current run, the interior art is gorgeous. And Life Zero, Marco Trucchetto on the art. He's knocking it out of the park. And the stories are so much fun. Really, like you said, it really brings in that hope that comics can be good. Comics are good. And Ablaze they're killing it.
So if you've lost faith in comics, go check out Ablaze. Unless you really like superheroes, then you're going to be SOL. They don't really do superheroes. But if you just like genre comic books, Ablaze, essentially everything is good. They do not make mistakes when they're curating that line. Let's go over to the last indie comic that we're going to recommend. Ice Cream Man number 29 from Image Comics, W. Maxwell Prince, Martin Morazzo on art. These comic books are absolutely insane. If you like one-shot stories and you like horror, this is absolutely the comic series for you. There's so many weird, eerie things that W. Maxwell Prince does with this. Every issue feels like it's a little bit different, but there's always something that kind of ties them all together. This guy's like kind of a genius when it comes to these one-shot horror stories.
Yeah, it's true. It's like you just said. I do not know what to expect with each issue. Each one is different, and this one is just the case. A guy has died. His friend winds up at his funeral will reading confessional, and it's a very endearing and heartwarming and sad at the same time. At the end of this story, we're really left with a truly great and true message about life. Just there's things that you just can't take with you. Yeah, this is a strong recommend for me this week. This is really damn good, and you got to check out Ice Cream Man. Each issue's just gotten better.
Let's go over to the big two. We have a Marvel comic to recommend. This one's coming from you more than me. We got the Hulk number 6, Donny Cates, Ryan Ottley. The end of the Smastronaut, I guess, opening story arc that they're doing, obviously building towards Banner of War, the Hulk-Thor crossover. Something happens here, Drew. Somebody else maybe is behind the wheel of old Hulk by the end of this thing.
Yeah, and we also learned that what if a Hulk had a Hulk? Big key in this. There's a big key alert for all you speculators out there. Both of our banners, who've been knocked down, kicked around, they get their balls back, they step up and go against their aggressors. It's great. There's great fight scenes by Ryan Ottley. Like, Ryan Ottley is the big selling point of this book. I mean, honestly, if I were an 8-year-old kid, I would be reading this every chance I got. This is going to blow away a kid's imagination seeing this. They're going to love this. Hulk number 6, strong recommend.
Obviously, like I said, we are moving towards the Banner of War, the big Thor Hulk crossover. I imagine Hulk's going to get his butt kicked. It's going to be Thor. They never let Thor win nowadays. But it should be fun.
Right in both. We'll see.
Absolutely. Donny Cates is right, both of them, so it could be fun. Let's go over to DC. We've got 2 DC comics to talk about this week. If Crimson Cage wasn't so amazing on the final issue, this would have been my comic book recommendation of the week, and it's still right up there. This is the highest recommendation. Batman, Superman, World's Finest, number 2, Mark Waid, Dan Mora. I've already reviewed this pretty much in depth with my good friend Josh, and this week in Batman. I know you were a fan of this comic book as well. What was it about Batman, Superman, World's Finest, number 2 that's really drawn you into it?
It's the fact that Mark Waid knows these characters. He knows their voices. He knows how they'll talk. It's the interactions between the characters, like between Niles Calder and Batman. That is pitch perfect. I loved it. And it seems like Robin being terrified and explaining what he's witnessing there in the basement with the Doom Patrol. It's like, I can't believe this is actually happening right now. This is crazy. And then that scene with Supergirl and Robin and something about a monkey. It's like, I want to know this story that he's writing. It's fun. It's action packed. It's funny. It has a heart, and it's true. It's true to the characters. And I cannot recommend it enough. It's pure escapism. It's just pure fun, and Mark Waid really shows why he is a very talented writer. And I'm just glad that he's doing this. And I can't imagine anyone else outside of Jeff Johns tackling this and doing a great job.
It definitely has an old school comic book feel to it. And almost because we're kind of conditioned to reading really slow, decompressed storytelling, it feels like it's going at 100 miles an hour because he doesn't waste a page here. No. Everything has a moment and moves the story forward. And that's really important because we don't get that very much. And it's just absolutely exciting. I love it.
Yeah, it's a word I use. It's kinetic. It's a very kinetic comic. Something is always happening on a page. And toward the end, when you get Felix Faust and Billy Batson, it's like, whoa, where is this going now? This is crazy. Each issue is getting crazier, and I can't wait for issue 3.
Yeah, I love how they brought in the Doom Patrol, Felix Faust, obviously Billy Batson, Supergirl. They have all these wonderful elements to it. It's really just, I don't know, brings out the kid in you. This is something that you could actually read with a kid for the most part. And you don't get to say that very much about Marvel and DC. There's one more DC comic you're recommending. I wouldn't have touched this. Me personally, after reading Earth Prime Batwoman, this is a no moss kind of universe for me. But you went in, read Earth Prime Superman and Lois #2. This is the show on CW that people, generally speaking, like. This is written by Adam Mallinger, Jay Jameson, Andrew Wong, as well as art by Tom Grumet. And you're recommending this?
I am recommending this because I am not a constant watcher of the show. I've seen the first episode; it was good. I need to start watching the rest of them. But I was shocked how good this was. First, the art team. You got Tom Grummett and Norm Ratman on the art. Fantastic. So there's 3 stories in this, I believe, and every one is great, and each one is different. And the very last one, which I wasn't too sure about. But then you start noticing small things. It's like, wait a minute, there's something wrong here. And then you get the twist at the end. It's like, you got me. Damn it. And but the back matter as well, what they're explaining to look forward to in the future episodes, they got some great stuff coming up. And this just shows you that you can do a good comic book based on a TV series. And they killed it with this book. It is so much fun. It has a heart. It's true to the characters. Yeah, Earth Prime #2, Superman and Lois. A lot of fun.
Definitely don't get the Batwoman, though, because that one was really bad. That's in the running for worst comic of the year, to be honest.
Yes.
But we're here to talk about the best stuff. So there are, what do we got? We got 7 comic books this week. 4 indie comics, Crimson Cage, We Live, Age of Palladions, Animal Castle, Ice Cream Man, as well as Hulk for Marvel, and DC's Batman, Superman, World's Finest, as well as Earth Prime, Superman, and Lois. Thank you very much, Drew, for joining me. You got any final words on what was a pretty good comic book week? Not as good as last week, where we had to cut stuff out because it was so good.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, this week was smaller, but there was still some great stuff in it. But next week, DC's coming back swinging. I'll say that.
Well, we got the death of the Justice League.
Yes, we do, and we got Swamp Thing, and we got Batman Beyond the White Knight, Action Comics. It's a big week.
If Drew and I were not able to sell you on We Live, Age of Palladions, I actually did a video about the very first issue of We Live. I said it was the very best issue of the year when that one came out. It was absolutely amazing. Much more details. You get a good sample of the art and really what this world and these characters are all about. So if you haven't been sold on We Live, check out this review of the very first comic book, and I think you might be going out to find that comic book.